We got some birds working right there. That's what I'm always looking for. There's a little bird activity on this. Oh yeah. Oh, there's some fish under. Look at that. What happens is when you find a group of fish, the fish push the bait to the surface. Then the birds come down and eat the bait as the fish push the bait to the surface. So that's how you look and find fish this time of year when it's real cold. That's a good sign. Did you hear it? Let's see what those birds are working on. There's a roadbed right here on the ramp. Like that before they backed up the lake, there used to be a road that runs all the way across here, all the way it comes on the other side of the lake. And so obviously that's a good place to fish. So I'm gonna see if I mark any bait or anything right here on this, right where we are, before I do anything. There's no need of going anywhere if we don't have to. A lot of times you can make a landmark on the bank. You can actually see where the road kind of comes across. If I don't see any fish right here, then I'll move on pretty quickly. This time, until the water gets really cold, right now the water temperature is 56, which is a really good temp. Where they still see, there's a roadbed right there. They're still feeling kind of frisky. Once it gets in the 40s, you don't want to graph quite as much looking for fish. Like I still use my graph a lot, but I'm not looking for fish per se. But there it goes. I'm looking more for structure at that point. Ditches, brush piles. The colder the water gets, the less I look for activity and I look for the right structures. Once you get in the 40s, you just got to get somewhere that you got confidence in and fish. Like just sit down and do the thing. What I'm fishing with today is gonna be really simple. I only have like a few baits that you really need to target these fish. We're gonna probably be fishing anywhere from 30 to 50, something like that. Hopefully we catch some fish. Now, shoot. This time of the year, you have to spend a lot of time finding a group of fish because they school up in bigger groups. And so that's great once you find them, but if you don't find them, I've had plenty of fishless days out here this time of the year. But once you do collide with that group of fish, like you got them and they'll stay for a while. So hopefully we do find some. But there's 3 baits that I'm gonna use today, as far as I know, unless they tell me something different. I'm gonna use a Ned rig. We're gonna fish it vertically. Jordan and Nia coined that term, the Ned Mickey. I'm gonna use a drop shot, 3/16 ounce weight, and I'll use a jigging spoon. And then I only have 2 or 3 little plastics. Here's the plastics that I like. I got a little minnow style bait that I'll put on my Ned rig. I'll put pretty much a minnow style bait on my drop shot as well. But you know, sometimes I'll use a drop shot worm, like this one right here. It just depends on what they want. Some days they want a worm, some days they want like a shaz style bait or worm. We'll have to just see what they're talking like. And I use them on my signature series rod that I use for everything else. Same rod that I use for catching big redfish and doing all the things saltwater. I bring it right out here to my freshwater fish and drop on them in 30 or 40 foot. The biggest thing is just spending some time behind the wheel looking for food. The fish follow the food this time of the year. So anywhere there's bait, there'll be birds. Anywhere there's birds and bait, there's usually gonna be some fish. And not always gonna be bass. Sometimes there'll be striper. Sometimes there'll be big old nasty spotted bass too. Yeah, there's something down there on this one. Hit that red button, we should get bit. Unless they're acting silly today. Yeah, I'm on some for sure. You can see them down there on the bottom. They were right on the bottom too. There he goes. Got him. Got him. That's what I love about this style of fishing, is being able to see them. Like using your electronics like that. It's so cool, man. Like, we've been going around fishing, and I hadn't seen any fish. Oh, that's a good one too. Oh God, bro, that's a really good one. Wow. Oh, dude, look at all the threadfin shad he's spitting up. Like oh God, look at all the shad. Dude, that little streaks is a monster when they're feeding on small shad like that. That is a monster bait. Ah. Okay, now look at this. Cake, birthday cake right there, baby. They're down there feeding on shad. You can look, if you look in the water, you see all that looks like feathers? That's shad the fish just spit up. If I get one close enough to me, I'll pick it up. But I could see those fish on the graph, and you drop down to them, and like, dude, that visual stimulation is just like topwater fishing. I know, like, right now fishing with electronics is like one of the most heavily contested topics in all of fishing, because some people feel like that you have an unfair advantage against the fish when you're using electronics. If you're on that side of the fence, cool. I'm gonna use electronics, and there's gonna be days where I just get in my kayak and I have absolutely nothing. I appreciate both styles of fishing, because there's nothing like that visual stimulation, just like when you're topwater fishing, of seeing the fish on the graph, dropping down to it. Oh, he's about to bite it, and he's got it. Like, dude, that's what I live for. So this is cool. This is cool. I'm gonna drop down. We're on a big school of fish. As soon as I idle over these fish, I can see them on the graph. I can see all the little dots. I'll see some birds working over here in the top corner. So this area right here is probably most likely just got a lot of fish, a lot of bait, a lot of food, which is most important for this time of the year. I'm gonna drop back down and see if I can catch another one. I don't like putting my hand in that cold water, so I'm gonna let you slide out. And back into the abyss she goes. This is all I'm using. Like the baits, like I tell you, I won't use a lot of different things today. Those fish were glued right to the bottom. They're feeding on that little bitty shad. I wish I could have picked some of it up, but this is exactly what the little shad that they're feeding on looks like. That's why I'm using it, the old Ned Mickey. This is nothing but a Ned rig head, the heaviest one I can buy, 5th ounce with a Streaks 375, which is a fluke style minnow bait. And that color is called Ralph's shad. I like it. I don't know who Ralph is, but that's a good looking shad, Ralph. I like your shads, Ralph. All right, here's some more on the graph. Should be able to, I don't know if I'll hook right back up, but you can see if you come up here and look, that streak going down is my bait, all right? That was a fish back there. And what I'll do, let's change my graph to, let's go to home. Let's go to sonar. Let's just go to a traditional sonar. That way you can see a little bit better. And I'll show you when I get around some fish, exactly what it looks like. Now you see there's a fish coming in the screen right there, glued right to the bottom. I mean, like his belly is right on the bottom. My bait's right down there with him. He doesn't look that active. What I look for is when I see a fish kind of easing up a little bit, a foot or two, going right back down, easing up a foot or two, going back down, I know that's the fish I can catch. I can't really tell you how close or how far away I am from that particular fish right there. So, and I can move my bait, and you'll see my bait come up. You see my bait rise up? That's my bait. See, I'll lower it back down. This is my bait. And I'm going to move around a little bit. This is a good thing about your electronics. I'm not seeing any fish, so I'll just kind of just ease around in this area until I see fish again. Seems like the sweet spot is going to be about 34, 35 foot right on the edge of these trees. It's a ghetto out here, bro. it's war out here. This is a special time of the year though, because man, you see how, like, not to be like this deep philosophical person, but like it's an interesting time of the year because you see how the ecosystem is working together and like how all these elements like make the lake such a special place, with the fish feeding on the bait that's under the water and pushing the bait up to the surface, and then the birds coming from, like, the birds, that's literally all they do is fly around all day and look for bait that's been pushed up by the fish. And like seeing how those two elements, those two things are working together to survive is like, it shows you that the lake is just like such a vibrant, live place. It's like, it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to witness, and you only see it this time of the year. You won't see this in the summertime. It's only in the wintertime when you see this, at least in this area of the country. If you can brave the cold and get out and don't mind a little bit of ice in your tips and so forth, this is probably our best time of the year to fish, other than springtime, obviously. There's one. There he is. This feels like a little smaller one. They hit the anchor mode here, keep us. I found a big wad of bait when I was idling. Like a huge wad of bait. Like it was like 15 foot worth of bait. That's a smaller one there. But it just goes to show you, like, oh, there, thank you for vomiting. Oh, you need some Pepsi, my dude? He's just a little cigarette. But let me hurry up and get back down. I found the bait. That's the biggest thing. You can see the small little shad these fish are feeding on. Like, that's what they're like. That's nothing, dude. That's like a little piece of peppermint candy. So if you find the food, you'll find the fish. That's all they're doing right now is eating. They're not chilling. They're not watching TV. They're not playing Fortnite. They're not on Netflix. Right now, they eat. Where in the summertime, those feeding windows, or even in the springtime, the feeding windows are a lot shorter. In the wintertime, like, they eat all day. I think it has something to do, creates a little bit of urgency with the shorter days. Like, I'm making up stuff right now, but I would think, you know, it's much easier for a bass to get his food in the daytime where they can actually see, especially a sight predator like a spotted bass. That's why they thrive in clear water like what we're fishing today, is because they're sight feeders. They see their food, they go get it. And with the days being shorter, there's more urgency for them to get out and get their food while there's daylight. And so I feel like that's why they bite so good this time of the year, just the shorter days. You think in the summertime it's a long day, they can just, you know, they can kind of just whittle around and do whatever they want to do. You got 12, 13 hours of daylight to chase your food down and eat for the day. That fish come out of 60 foot of water. 60 foot. What I've noticed is the deeper I go, the smaller they get. You do catch more quantity the deeper you go, but when you stay in that 25 to 40 foot range, that's where you catch the old meat dogs at. A few dots on there, you can see this fish. It's kind of hard to tell. And all that scratchy stuff, that's timber. Just like these far. There's even more bait there. See it? There's no way there's not any fish right here. No way. You got bait, you got structure. And you got smaller. I didn't see those on the graph. That feels like a smaller one. But I'm marking a bunch on, as soon as I caught one, I marked a bunch of them down there now. There's a buttload of them. That's a smaller guy. Let's see if we can find another one of those meat dogs like when we got started. As soon as I caught that one, as soon as I got that bite, I looked down on the graph and it was like, dude, it looked like they were down there having a powwow. You'll notice I'll kind of switch between my little Ned bait and the drop shot. The reason I switch back and forth, it's kind of twofold. When I see the fish are like really active and high in the water column, they're going from 30 foot to 20 foot and, like, you know, just really going up and down the water column, I'll use the drop shot. but when I noticed it really, they're glued all the way down on the bottom, and just you see those little blips right on the bottom, I'm going to use this guy because I can put it right in front of their face. Now, right now the water is not that cold, but when your water gets in the 40s, there's a big difference between having that bait just shaking right there on the bottom and getting a bite, and having it suspended off the bottom 8-10 inches. To have that fish to kind of feed up like that, sometimes they will get off a drop shot, and that's when I'll use the Ned Mickey right here. But if they're real active, I'll put this down because I can drop. The drop shot tends to it'll get down to the fish a little bit better, because obviously there's two things. I got a little bit slimmer bait on here, so there's less water resistance, and the fact that the weight is on the bottom, the bait just drops down to the bottom a lot quicker. So I can run my bait down. If I see some on the screen, I can hurry up and get them down, get the bait down to the fish really quickly. That's important. That's key, because sometimes those fish will run right under you, and you got to capitalize when the fish are under you, because they have tails and they swim. And fishing this way, you can't really fish for them out in front of you. Even though you have forward facing sonar, that does help, but you're still limited to covering water with this technique. About 35 foot. This is about the depth that I like to catch them in, is like 35 foot. Usually when I catch my good ones, it's somewhere between 25, no deeper than 40. You get over 40, you get into the 50, 60 foot, it seems like it turns into more of a numbers game. There's some fish right there. Might get bit again. Yeah, there's some right there. It's a little squad of them. Yeah, he got it. Oh, now he let it go. There's a little group of fish right there. See if we can get one to. That was a little group of them. They went right on by. I had one pull at it. Oh, there they come back. Here we go. We should get bit here. Let's see if they're hungry and willing. Yeah, that's a good group of fish. You can see this. You can see there's a lot of static in my graph here. You see the lines, the horizontal lines, that's the tree lines. That's what we're actually fishing. That's our structure when we're out here fishing deep, is the actual timber lines. When they made the lake, they never cleared the lake. They left all the timber. And you can see there's some movement inside these trees. That's the fish. That's the fish going in and out of the trees. That's the structure that they're using as ambush point to get to the bait. And so what I'm doing is dropping vertically. The only way the fish structure that deep and that thick is to drop vertically on it. If you were to try to make a cast out there with a jig, you would pour your bait into the trees and you would just stay snagged. So the only way to fish it is to drop a bait directly down into the trees. So you can see my fish. I'll blow it up a little bit more where you can see them. All fish. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's here. This is even fish here. Right there on the bottom. That's all fish. Vertical lines is the trees, or the horizontal lines of trees where you see movement. See, it goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. That's all fish right there. Must be little babies. That's why they're not hitting it that good. He's not that bad. Okay. Yeah, he's not that bad. Not that bad at all. Man, I think I like that kind. There's a bunch on the screen now. There's a bunch of fish on the screen now. It's just so cool watching them like that, man. Like that never gets old. Now, in a normal video, you would sit here and talk about how beautiful this fish is, how much I love spotted bass, and all of that. This is what I'm gonna do. Bop! Get my bait right back down there, because I got to catch another one. When they come under you like that, you want to try to take advantage of every opportunity you can. I had to flip that one out from the boat. I noticed that I've been marking some fish, and I wasn't getting. Oh, no, I didn't know you was going to fight. You didn't tell me you was going to fight. Why you didn't tell me you was going to fight? You could have let me know. He anchor mode you down. But I was on drop shot. I swapped the drop shot because I noticed the fish were a lot more active on the screen. And I wanted to Couple things. I wanted to be able to get the bait down to the fish a little bit better. The drop shot sinks a little easier. So I did that. And then I noticed that we had quite a few fish kept coming under the boat, but I wasn't getting them to bite. And what happens a lot of times, especially if you're fishing an area where the fish get a lot of pressure, is they can feel the boat on top of you. Think about it. If they can feel, look, if they can feel this little bitty skinny worm in 60 foot of water, they know that your 20-foot, 1-ton bass boat is on top of you. All right, so I just made a little, not a cast, all right, just a little flick out about 25, 30 foot from the boat. I didn't live scope them. I didn't see those fish on my live scope or anything like that. I just flicked it out from the boat and then started dragging it around on this little point that I'm fishing, and immediately got one to bite it. So maybe that's what I need to start doing, is kind of flicking it out and getting the pressure of the boat off the top of the fish. There's really only about 3 or 4 things that I'm looking for when it comes to fishing deep like this. It can be real intimidating because anytime you hear deep water, you can't visually see what you're fishing. But I'm using my electronics to show me exactly the same things that I'm looking for when we're fishing the bank. So a couple things that I'm looking for is points. I'm looking for depressions, or when we're fishing 25, 30 foot deep, typically we refer to them as ditches. So anywhere in the bottom, there's the bank here, and where it basically makes a V down there in the bottom, that's where I'm looking for ditches. Third element I'm typically looking for on this particular body of water is timber lines. The fish use those timber lines for ambush points. Fish always like to get behind something and ambush the prey. Those 3 elements are what I'm almost always looking for. And then there's a 4th element of birds. The birds are basically telling you where food is. If you got food, I can almost guarantee you that forage fish are around, so the bait fish is there. And if the bait fish is there, the bass are there, somewhere in that vicinity. So I will spend hours just behind the wheel, just looking, not at my graphs, all right? Just looking for birds. And more importantly, active birds. I want to see the birds diving. I want to see them circling high above. When you see them circling, that means there's been some active fish in that area, and they're pretty much patrolling, looking for the bait fish that the fish have pushed up to the surface. So anytime I find those 4 or 5 elements in a particular area, I'm going to spend some time there and start looking at those high percentage areas of fish. Don't let this deep water stuff be intimidating. I know it's even more intimidating when you add the mix electronics, but you're only using your electronics to find structure that you cannot visually see with the naked eye. All right, that's all electronics is. So finding these fish out here deep, especially in the wintertime, you can get a lot of repetition because you're going to catch a lot of fish. You can see we caught quite a few fish in just about an hour and a half or so. So you can imagine if you put a little time in here, found the right areas with all the bait, found the correct depth, you could really kind of load the boat pretty fast. You can catch fish deep. I promise you can, even if you're a shallow water angler.